Oh, look at you. Look at me. Look at us here through the snow, ready to make it happen on Sports Grid. Kevin Walsh with you on this Sunday morning as we get set to figure out who will play in the Super Bowl. The AFC Championship game in Denver between the Broncos and the Patriots. And in the NFC, it is part 3. Everybody wanted the Seahawks and the Rams, and they got it in Seattle. I, of course, am not alone here on this snowy Sunday. My guy, Joe Lisi, with me for the next 2 hours. Joe, how are you?
This is what it's all about, Kev. New state-of-the-art studio to break down Championship Sunday. Nothing better. Rematch of Seattle and L.A. Jarrett Stidham, can he be the man? And can Sean Payton get this team potentially to the promised land? We'll find out a little bit later today.
There is, of course, no bigger impact on this slate than the fact that Bo Nix is not playing in the game. And Joe and I have talked about Stidham potentially stepping up. We have talked about the market reaction, and we'll talk more about it today. But I think it is noteworthy that the books have non-stop been dropping this number on the Denver Broncos as one, and I'm not saying this isn't correct, but I was told a sharper book went to New England -6. We saw 5.5s. Those are long gone. A loose 4 in the market. This is 3.5 everywhere. And that, Joe, though, seems to be despite the public side looking like New England. It's a fascinating spot here where, and I know you love this, right? Public versus pros, big money versus, a lot of money, if you will. But clearly the books overestimated the gap that everyone would think there is between Nix and Stidham.
Yeah, I think you're right, Kev. I think it's a couple of factors. Let's take a look at it. When Nix announces that he's out for the year and they made the move to Stidham, we saw immediately when we did the show at the start of the week, 5.5s immediately. And then, to your point, 1 or 2 books got up to 6. And then from basically Monday night straight through now Sunday, we've seen more line movement in favor of Denver and Sean Payton. Now, there's been a bunch of, social media posts showcasing Jarrett Stidham's play back with Josh McDaniels when he started against San Francisco, the preseason when he played against Denver and San Francisco and he threw a dime, the fact that Sean Payton and Denver have a Super Bowl winning coach. If anybody could get him prepared, it would be Sean Payton. And then the other factor that I've heard is that, is it an immediate drop-off from Stidham to Bo Nix, where, people weren't anointing Bo Nix as an MVP caliber, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, or even now Drake May type of player, that you could at least get or duplicate the type of productivity with a veteran type of quarterback. So I think that's what was, in play when we saw this line movement play out. But again, styles make fights. Stidham's still going to have to produce and get close to his number today.
Well, I think, Joe, you're right to focus on the growing perception around Stidham. It is reflected in the total that has also just been on the climb up the entire way. This number was at 40.5. It's been a full 3 points added to that number. So we will break this game down. Of course, we'll get to the New England side. Drake May, as a sophomore, trying to make a Super Bowl, which would be no small feat, even if he's not been all that good and we're pretending that it's really impressive that he's played a lot of tough defenses and not played very well against them. But we'll get there. We'll get there. On the other side, Joe, when we think about, what's the story of Seattle and Los Angeles, it's that the games have been so close that the point differential is 1 towards LA, a 2-point win and a 1-point loss for the Rams. The total yardage gap, I think might also be a yard between these teams. But I will say, again, not to get out ahead of myself here, I am surprised that with 2 games decided by 2 or less, they have pretty confidently made the Seahawks the biggest favorite they've been in a meeting between these 2 teams at 2.5.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think twofold. How they dominated San Francisco, even though we thought San Francisco was decimated, we still thought that they would be able to put up potentially maybe 17 or 20 points and at least challenge Seattle to get completely outplayed at every facet of the game, including special teams. I think is a main reason why you're seeing the 2.5s. And then to your point that you brought up all week, Kevin, LA is 2-0 in the playoffs, but they haven't covered. And this is their 3rd straight road game. They went from 10.5-point favorites, 3.5-point favorites, to now a 2.5-point dog. The last time we saw a quarterback or a team win 3 straight road games, that was Tampa Bay and Tom Brady when they won the Super Bowl. So I really believe the performance in Chicago is a main reason why we're seeing the 2.5s in favor of Seattle. A lot of people thought LA would walk into Soldier Field, dominate a young team, walk away with it, and win it by double digits because they were used to the cold. They had the veteran team. They had the veteran Super Bowl quarterback, and they did have the more consistent defense. And that didn't play out last Sunday where the game went into overtime. So I think because of all of those factors, the books sit back and they say, okay, maybe we're not sure 100% about Sam Darnold, but we know 100% about that defense showing up each and every week. And that's at least significant to make them a 2.5-point home favorite.
Joe, I think you're right in that the movement we've seen in Denver, New England it's all about Jarrett Stidham, right?
Right.
The Seahawks Rams number is about 2 teams who last week were on the opposite side of expectations. That Seattle couldn't have played any better, and that the Rams, I'm not going to say they couldn't have played any worse, but again, they didn't overwhelm. There were people laying that number with Los Angeles. And, obviously it took another Streetball Williams, as you would say, play to, change the fact that the Rams looked like they were going to be able to grab a cover in that game, but they did not. And they had to win it in overtime. So it all makes the difference here when we're, taking a look at these numbers. Just speaking of numbers, as we set up this show today, kind of the journey here, the Super Bowl odds for these teams to start the season compared to now. And the fact that the 2 teams that were supposed to be here, relatively speaking, right, Joe, are the underdogs. I actually think I think that there might be a tick off there. I think Denver was the 25, and I think Seattle was at 65 those week one, if I have those numbers correct in front of me. But Joe, the way that these teams have, especially New England and Seattle, right? The way these teams have beaten expectations. I mean, being in the AFC, being in the NFC Championship game is one thing. The fact that these teams are here booked as favorites, it has been a remarkable run for what, by the way, is likely the 1-2 finish in Coach of the Year, I think, in Vrabel and McDonald.
Yeah, I think you bring up great points. I think when you look at both of those teams, they were looked at as being potential contenders. They weren't looked at as being the front runners and as how dominant they have been in the playoffs. I think that's the biggest thing, too, when you look at the performance about Vrabel and New England, how they dominated Justin Herbert and that offense, how they dominated C.J. Stroud, how their offense was able to move the football on one of the best front sevens in all of the NFL. That perception now is like, wait a minute, we thought they would be good. We just didn't know they'd be this good, and that's what you're seeing right now in both the Patriots and Seahawks being favorites in today's matchups, Kev.
We will, again, be giving you full breakdowns of these games. We will also talk about Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers potentially reuniting in Pittsburgh. The key to the AFC Championship game, we'll tell you next.
Sure, you could say the punt block is a key play in the game. It was.
It was.
But the signature play of last night's game is the John Elway-esque diving sideways into the end zone. There's a picture of it right there. To effectively win the national championship. That dude's a baller.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
I'll tell you what, guys. The insider scam is like the best insider scam in the business of, like, in the history of television. They don't know anything until their phone gets the text message in which the deal is done, right? We saw this with Quinn Hughes. We were told, oh, he wants to play with his brothers. He wants to play with his brothers. Now they're saying that he wanted to be traded to Detroit. In other words, just say you don't know.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Hold on a second, though. You believe that Mike McDaniel is not head coach caliber?
No.
There's a lot of evidence that says Cliff Kingsbury is not
That's
either.
fine that you believe that. But here's the thing.
There's more. Hold on a second.
Hang on, go ahead.
Mike McDaniel has a better resume than Cliff Kingsbury.
He does on paper, but he's not a locker room guy.
Well, is Cliff?
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Meanwhile, Charlie Baker of the NCAA has planted his flag. He wants to see the end of prediction markets, and of course is a little bit nervous with all of the different stories that we've heard surrounding sports betting allegations of some folks being corrupt out there and maybe some point shaving. It does make some sense here. I just wonder which of the sports betting operators are going to stand with the NCAA.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Back right here on SportsGrid, Kevin Walsh and Joe Lisi. I think Joe would be the meteorologist of the bunch here. Joe, what's the latest on this snow? You all right?
Yeah, no, I'm fine, Kev. Winds were coming in from the northwest. We were supposed to get rain and sleet coming in around 2 o'clock. It looked like it hit right around 3:30. I had boots on the ground, but I tell you, it's a mess here. Happy to be in the state-of-the-art studio, though. As you can see, I'm overlooking Mile High.
You look good, pal. You look good.
I do.
Speaking of Mile High, that is where the AFC Championship game will be. So I actually am very curious. Your read on the line movement of this game between the Broncos and the Patriots, because it is a little interesting. I don't think it would be. Here's what I want to say. You know how everyone celebrates Vegas when a game lands right on the number? There was a college basketball game the other day, Maryland, Illinois, lands right on the number, like 18 and a half. I think it landed 19. And it is incredible when it could land on that. Where occasionally, Vegas gets let off the hook is when they open one of the 3 biggest NFL games of the season and they get smashed, being told that they're completely wrong. You may think there's no difference between 1 and 2 points. That's just not true. There is. So what is your perception, Joe, of why this number was 5.5 and has been shifted all the way now to 3.5?
Because now every mush and everybody believes that Jared Stidham could be like Nick Foles and potentially Jeff Hostetler back in the day for the New York Giants. And that is the concern that I have back in the side. I still lean to Denver because they are 9-1 at home. They've dominated opponents. They were able to dominate, multiple teams throughout the regular season, beat Green Bay. The only loss came at the hands of Jacksonville. Jacksonville is a 3.5-point favorite. But other than that, and outside that game against Josh Allen last week, they have been a dominant home team defensively as well. So I think when you look at that and you look at this matchup against Drake May in his first career road start in the playoffs, that is a cause of concern. I still like the total, Kev. I do. I think both offenses will look to push tempo. I'm not concerned about that. We're not talking 48.5, 49. We're talking 43.5, up from 41.5 when it opened. I am a little concerned about how much people are buying into Stidham. I think he can play well, but now this over speculation about where he's the second coming, he might even be better than Bo Nix, is completely ridiculous.
Yeah, I think that is fair. So I think what happened, right, to be, I don't know if nerdy is the word, right? But what they were not going to do, to give mention to um, our guy Dave Sharapan, right, who of course on the network always, talk through these situations with us. They did not want the first big bet to come in on the favorite. Then they really messed up. If they opened this up and they just got smashed with New England, they were in a bad spot, because the public perception is going to be fade the team with a backup quarterback. And if you look at the splits that are available, the public splits, Joe, that money is still coming in on New England. But these big bets, right, what would be considered the sharp bets, they are taking these points with the Broncos due to something that I think we laid out from the jump, and I think is pretty easy for anyone to understand. What would this number have been if Bo Nix was playing? Denver would have been a favorite. I don't think there's any way to suggest otherwise. Considering Denver was closed as a favorite against Buffalo, Buffalo not that long ago went to New England, booked as favorites, and what that meant is the move from Nix to Stidham was a touchdown plus. That's just not how point spreads work. Simply, like the gap from Josh Allen to Jared Stidham, they typically would tell you is a touchdown. Like if it was Josh Allen and Buffalo who won, and then all of a sudden Mitch Trubisky was starting, Joe, that would move about a touchdown. It's not the gap between Nix and Stidham. So the books have kind of been settled in on a lot of this money publicly from New England. The big singular bets are coming in on Denver, but we now have a 3.5 number here where that hook has still been left available on this side. I will say, as somebody who has a future position involving the Broncos getting to the Super Bowl, I don't feel it necessary to get back in on the Denver Broncos, but I still really like the Denver Broncos in this game because we're spending all this time talking about the quarterback. They are an elite defense, a super, super elite defense who can give the New England Patriots a world of trouble in this matchup.
And as long as Stidham, Kevin, doesn't turn the football over, that's the biggest thing. If he's not going to be turnover prone and he's more of a game manager and distributes the football to Marvin Mims and Sutton and all of those weapons on the outside, Lil Jordan Humphrey, they're going to be fine, assuming that their defense doesn't have major lapses. Now, I do feel the way to attack Denver is on the ground. I do feel that Travion Henderson is the best back to do that today. We could dive into that a little bit later, but that's the way to attack it, to take the pressure off of Drake May. He has been turnover prone himself against a very good defense last week in Houston. He plays like that game is up for grabs then, right? It comes down to turnover margin, who wins it, and who can run the football just a little bit better. But you also have a dominant home team that only has one loss on the year. A majority of their wins, Kevin, have been by 10-plus points per game. That's why you're seeing right now. I mean, I still lean to Denver. Don't like it as much, obviously, at 3.5 as I do 4.5 and 5.5. But I still like Denver to potentially be in this game.
The New England Patriot faithful, and if you fit that description, you won't like this, but it's okay. You'll be fine. They have not enjoyed all of the talk about the easy schedule and then getting to play Stidham. I mean, it's just all too on the nose. So they have now opted to singing the song that they've played what would be 3 straight top 5 defenses, and look at how awesome Drake May is. There's one problem with that. Drake May has not been good. So why in the world should I expect Drake May to be good today? We'll see if we can find the answer to that after the break right here on SportsGrid.
Sure, you could say the punt block is a key play in the game. It was.
It was.
But the signature play of last night's game is the John Elway-esque diving sideways into the end zone. There's a picture of it right there. To effectively win the national championship. That dude's a baller.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
I'll tell you what, guys. The insider scam is like the best insider scam in the business of, like, in the history of television. They don't know anything until their phone gets the text message in which the deal is done. Right? We saw this with Quinn Hughes. We were told, oh, he wants to play with his brothers. He wants to play with his brothers. Now they're saying that he wanted to be traded to Detroit. In other words, just say you don't know.
In-game live only on SportsGrid.
Hold on a second, though. You believe that Mike McDaniel is not head coach caliber?
No.
There's a lot of evidence that says Cliff Kingsbury is not
That's
either.
fine that you believe that. But here's the thing. Here's the
There's
thing.
more. Hold on a second.
Hang on, go ahead.
Mike McDaniel has a better resume than Cliff Kingsbury.
He does on paper, but he's not a locker room guy.
Well, is Cliff?
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Meanwhile, Charlie Baker of the NCAA has planted his flag. He wants to see the end of prediction markets, and of course is a little bit nervous with all of the different stories that we've heard surrounding sports betting allegations of some folks being corrupt out there and maybe some point shaving. It does make some sense here. I just wonder which of the sports betting operators are going to stand with the NCAA.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Drake May, who is, and again, I don't think unjustly, the lesser of the two quarterbacks discussion-wise in this game, because it's like, oh my gosh, Jarrett Stidham is starting. But Drake May is a sophomore quarterback booked as a favorite to go to the Super Bowl. And if that comes in, no matter how he plays, he will cement himself as no less than a top 5 quarterback. And you can roll your eyes at this if you want. See, this is, you want to talk about playing the fence here. Drake May can grab best quarterback title in the world. If you rip off a top 2 MVP finish and then a Super Bowl MVP, I would say that's up for grabs, Joe. What do you expect from Drake May in this game?
I expect Drake May to play, well. And when we say well, I'm not talking 350 yards, Kev, and 4 touchdowns, Matt Stafford-esque. I'm talking, 200, 225 yards, lead his team on some scoring drives, and be in it in the fourth quarter to potentially win an AFC championship. I wouldn't expect anything else from this team right now. They're favored in the matchup. The expectation is they're supposed to win this game, even with Jarrett Stidham and a veteran backup, and even the Denver defense. They're supposed to move the football. And to your point, they did move the football against Houston. Drake May, made some turnovers, but he also made some nice looks in the passing attack, got the football to Pop Douglas, got the football to Kayshon Boutte, got it to Stephon Diggs in red zone opportunities. I expect that to continue. And I haven't been as high on Drake May as obviously Caleb now and Jaden Daniels in the draft, but he is coming into his own. And if he is able to win this AFC championship, I mean, he's gonna obtain something that Lamar Jackson right now and Josh Allen haven't. I'm just saying.
That's a good point. No.
But I mean, because you'll get the pushback that they're better quarterbacks, and maybe they are. But if Drake May wins and goes to his first Super Bowl, Kev, I mean, you can't take that away from him. I mean, you can look at it game manager, you can look at it quarter. He is the leader of that offense. He's a second-year guy, and if he is able to pull off this win on the road in a very difficult environment, you got to give Drake May his props.
But I don't think Drake May is a game manager. I think Drake May. No. But my point, Joe, is I understand what you're saying. What I'm trying to say. So I think that ties in actually. I think Drake May and this Patriots team are at their best when Drake May looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the world. And that is why he has the ability. He has already now, once this game kicks off, been to as many AFC championship games as Lamar Jackson. Okay? To your point, right? So it is an incredible run. With that said, Drake May had one game where he completed under 60% of his passes in the regular season. He led the NFL in completion percentage. It's happened so far in each game of this postseason. He had one game where he averaged less than 7 yards per attempt. It was the first game of the year. He's already had one such game in the postseason. He has now had back-to-back interception games for what would be the third time this year. There was only two stretches of that in the regular season. Drake May has dropped since the playoffs have started. That's just the reality. Now,
Right.
people will say, but he's playing the Chargers, he's playing the Texans. Oh, I'm sorry. Is there a walk in the park awaiting him today in Denver? No. It is arguably the best defense in football in their own building. And that, to me, is the difference in this game. If I am wrong today, okay, with the bets that I'm placing, it will be because Drake May was absolutely brilliant, Joe. I think it's a big ask. I don't think this New England offensive line is up to the task. They haven't looked up to the task. Let's be clear. They put up 16 on the Chargers. Unimpressive. They scored 28 against Houston. There was a pick 6 in that game. So really it was 21 for the offense, right? This is a Broncos team I do not think is set here to give up 20 plus in this game to this Patriots offense. I bet the under in this game. But by the way, we talk about a lot of the movement that's happened. So if I missed out on Denver. You're getting the best of this under, though, at 43.5.
Yeah, you are. And I'll take it a step further. I think that the mentality of both teams, if I'm Denver and Sean Payton, right, I want to be more aggressive. I'm at home. I have the backup quarterback. I want to actually be playing with the lead as opposed to playing from behind, right? Why? You don't know what you're going to get out of Jarrett Stidham early. You'd rather get him into a rhythm, be more aggressive with my play calling, see if I could build the lead, and then game on. If I'm Drake May and I'm New England, I want to run the football, and I think that's the difference why you might get the under.
We are going to continue to break down the AFC and NFC championship game here on SportsGrid.
Sure, you could say the punt block is a key play in the game. It was.
It was.
But the signature play of last night's game is the John Elway-esque diving sideways into the end zone. There's a picture of it right there. To effectively win the national championship. That dude's a baller.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
I'll tell you what, guys. The insider scam is like the best insider scam in the business of, like, in the history of television. They don't know anything until their phone gets the text message in which the deal is done. Right? We saw this with Quinn Hughes. We were told, he wants to play with his brothers. He wants to play with his brothers. Now they're saying that he wanted to be traded to Detroit. In other words, just say you don't know.
In-game live only on SportsGrid.
Hold on a second, though. You believe that Mike McDaniel is not head coach caliber?
No.
There's a lot of evidence that says Cliff Kingsbury is not
That's
either.
fine that you believe that. But here's the thing. There's
more. Hold on a second.
Hang on, go ahead.
Mike McDaniel has a better resume than Cliff Kingsbury.
He does on paper, but he's not a locker room guy.
Well, is Cliff?
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Meanwhile, Charlie Baker of the NCAA has planted his flag. He wants to see the end of prediction markets and, of course, is a little bit nervous with all of the different stories that we've heard surrounding sports betting allegations of some folks being corrupt out there and maybe some point shaving. It does make some sense here. I just wonder which of the sports betting operators are going to stand with the NCAA.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Pro Football Today, back on SportsGrid, and we're going to get to the NFC Championship game, I promise. However, I've been working with Lisi a long time, and he said something that I'm not waiting. I'm not waiting. Because within this breakdown, right, of Patriots-Broncos, Lisi threw out a key to the game, which is Trevion Henderson.
Yeah.
So can you please explain to me your love for Trevion Henderson here in this matchup?
Okay, so let's look at the weakness potentially of Denver. Okay, Denver last week allowed James Cook and that offense to rush for well over 100 yards. And if you would ask Buffalo to dial it back and just replay that game, I bet you Sean McDermott and Joe Brady said, we want to run James Cook a little bit more. But they couldn't do that after they fell behind. They were down by double digits, and they had to obviously utilize Josh Allen a little bit more, I believe, in the passing attack than what they could do in dictating the tempo. Well, Ramondre Stevenson is nowhere near the elusiveness or explosiveness as James Cook, okay? And that's the type of running back that you need to attack this defense. Ramondre Stevenson has produced. I'm not taking anything away from his big playability and what he's done in the playoffs and at the end of the regular season. I actually bet Ramondre through the rushing total last week and in the playoff run. He's caught the football. He's running very well. But they're going to stack the box. You need somebody that can catch the edge, off tackle, and that is Trevion Henderson. He's an explosive back, has huge numbers today, Kevin. 50 is, I believe, like 2-1. 60 is plus 360. 70 yards is almost 6-1 odds. That is way too much for one of the most explosive running backs in the conference. And again, I understand he's not James Cook and he's not one of the elite backs, but in this environment, with his speed, I believe the offensive staff utilizes him more than Stevenson, who's a change of pace back. I'm expecting him to have a huge day today, not just in the rush attack, but in the screen game as well. He's got great receiving totals.
All right, so here is the full scope of, gosh, I can't stand you. I really can't. I can't. And it's,
why can't you stand me?
Because in the postseason, he's got 2 grabs for 7 yards. Why I oughta. Listen to me. Listen, really. First of all, you being like, when's the last time we've seen this guy? 50 yards, 2-1. Oh, literally last Sunday when I gave him out in my Sell Me Something on the ladder.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So,
No. Don't do that. Don't do that smile. I see that. Don't do that. Don't do that. No, because I'll do it. Don't you do it. That's what I'm nervous about, right? I wanted this to be very clear. Trevion Henderson's an awful bet. Okay? I want that to be very clear. He has been terrible this postseason. Ramondre Stevenson has looked better than him for a month and a half. Okay? That's all there is to it. And yet, because I went up to the plate last week, okay, and struck out on 3 pitches, and now Lisi's grabbing a big bat, all right? He's got the plastic wiffle ball bat with the big barrel, the red one. And it worries me that Trevion Henderson's first carry is going to go for 56 and a score, okay? I'm going to call it like it is. There's no reason for this to win. Ramondre Stevenson, and this goes against everything we thought coming into the year, during the middle of the year. He has been better than Trevion Henderson. That's all there is to it. Okay. Ramondre Stevenson has been way better. He's earned. He outworked Trev last week. He couldn't see out of one eye for half the game, and he still got more work and was better in the game.
Look at that body type. Put up the graphic again. Can we see Ramondre's body type? He's a plotter. Put him up there. Put him on. I want to see. Look at that body size. Come on.
Hold on a second.
The edge.
Trevion is averaging 2.5 yards a carry in the postseason. Stevenson's at 4.7.
You know what he's going to be today? He's going to be a bell cow. He's going to be a bell cow. This kid, Trey, I already took him for 2+ touchdowns. I think it's 20-1.
Okay.
I love the over in the game. 2+ touchdowns, Trevion. Trevion Henderson. Could
Snake
get
in the grass.
150 total yards today.
Snake in the grass.
Right,
You ended
that's-
last segment saying you
and
might
I-
be able to get the under. Snake in the grass.
Well, no,
You
I said you
slithered.
might be able to get the under. That's what I said.
Yeah, just like that national championship game. Game is sitting 48, and I know you. Run it! Sack him! Safety! I know.
Well, I put it out on
wow.
the show. It came in over. What do you mean? The total was 46.5.
Yeah, I had the 48.5, and I said if this
All right, so
game
you
is
won.
in between the two numbers,
Right.
will you root in us both to win? And you went, no, I got to play it to 50.5. Yeah, and I know what you did. Okay, and you put it out on Twitter, and you text congrats, great pick, Kev. Real. Don't worry, Chevrion's gonna get a carry, go for 20, and I'll be tweeting you out. Wow, congrats, Lisi. Never seen a back look this.
You know what? If he
live.
goes for 60, I know, and then it'll already be in. 60 is like it's plus 360 for 60 yards. This,
like
you want to talk about the lack of disrespect for this kid. Unbelievable.
No, you said it wrong. Lack of disrespect. No, the
lack of respect. Lack of respect. It's a snow day. I'm allowed to make mistakes.
Yeah, Lisi's been busy shoveling. Oh my gosh. All right, let's do a little Rams Seahawks here, shall we?
People want to know about Rams Seahawks. We got another hour and a half to go of it.
Am I jumping the gun?
No.
I'm sorry, lead man.
Not at all. Not at all.
You want to get into the Kayshawn Booty numbers?
No, whatever you want to do. I want to talk
great.
Rams Seattle.
Great. So here's the way this game lines up, right? These teams played very, very recently in Seattle, and it was a 1.5 point number, and it moved towards Seattle, to be clear, right? I think it might have opened Rams short -1, if my memory's holding. To sit here at 2.5, because the Seahawks, off a bye, played a battered Niners team, who, by the way, got somehow stuck with short rest and had to play on a Saturday when the other NFC game featured two teams that played on a Saturday. I think the number is inflated. I do, Joe. I think the Rams are the better team. This is one of the defining line items, I think, in recent NFL history, is that blowouts get overrated. I am not saying that you want to see a blowout, right? You want to see a team be able to smash a team. But the Seahawks have been great bullies this year. I am not saying they are not a very, very good football team. What I am saying, though, is them beating the Niners 41-6 has inflated this number. We've seen this game each time land 2 or less. So you can take the 2.5 points. But I'll tell you right now, I bet the Rams money line. I expect them to win this football game. They're the better team. They've looked better than Seattle, I think, in both meetings. And they're fortunate that this thing ended up a split. And if it didn't, and the Rams were the 1 seed, this would be a 5-6 point number.
Yeah, no, you're right. They have the quarterback advantage. They have the coaching advantage, and you can make the argument McDonald's a coach of the year candidate, but he hasn't won a Super Bowl yet. The only thing they don't have is the home field advantage, right? And it's 3 straight road games. So when you see those factors again, Kev, I really believe that not just what was the breakdown last week for LA, right? Just run the football against a suspect front seven in Chicago, right? They couldn't run the football consistently. It was good. It wasn't great. It wasn't Christian McCaffrey in San Francisco, what they did in week 15 or 16, was it? No. It was good.
No, I hear you. I do. And we're going to,
but that's why you're seeing, I believe, the 2.5. I'll just leave it at this and we can dive in deeper. That game showed me nothing about Sam Darnold. Nothing.
I think we get right to that after this break here on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Can Sam Darnold step up in this spot? A very important question. We'll answer it next.
sure, you could say the punt block is a key play in the game. It was.
It was.
But the signature play of last night's game is the John Elway-esque diving sideways into the end zone. There's a picture of it right there. To effectively win the national championship. That dude's a baller.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
I'll tell you what, guys. The insider scam is like the best insider scam in the business of, like, in the history of television. They don't know anything until their phone gets the text message in which the deal is done. Right? We saw this with Quinn Hughes. We were told, oh, he wants to play with his brothers. He wants to play with his brothers. Now they're saying that he wanted to be traded to Detroit. In other words, just say you don't know.
In-game live only on SportsGrid.
Hold on a second, though. You believe that Mike McDaniel is not head coach caliber?
No.
There's a lot of evidence that says Cliff Kingsbury is not
That's
either.
fine that you believe that. But here's the thing. Here's the
There's
thing.
more. Hold on a second.
Hang on. Go ahead.
Mike McDaniel has a better resume than Cliff Kingsbury.
He does on paper, but he's not a locker room guy.
Well, is Cliff?
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Meanwhile, Charlie Baker of the NCAA has planted his flag. He wants to see the end of prediction markets and, of course, is a little bit nervous with all of the different stories that we've heard surrounding sports betting allegations of some folks being corrupt out there and maybe some point shaving. It does make some sense here. I just wonder which of the sports betting operators are going to stand with the NCAA.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid with you on a snowy Sunday, though the weather against the odds, maybe, Joe, projected to be beautiful in Seattle. Maybe that'll help people interested in this total.
Yeah, I mean, Kev, we saw 47.5s come into the market. We're seeing 45.5s now. I understand the movement to a certain degree. If Chicago's defense can contain Stafford, a defense that had multiple questions to answer in that game last week prior to the kickoff, right? Well, what is the best defense potentially in the NFL or NFC going to do, to Stafford and that team? The way they shut down McCaffrey, the way they shut down Brock Purdy in back-to-back games last week. That's why you're seeing not only the 2.5 number, you're seeing a dipping number in the 45.5 total. Donnie also brought up, and again, there's still concerns about Darnold. He hasn't thrown all week. Look, here's the thing. I think Darnold is more healthy than he's not, but I'll just say this, and I said it before, I'll just say this. That game last week showed me nothing. If you're a Seattle backer, you're part of the organization, you're a fan, you're a bettor in this game, you still are going into this game and with the question of, I hope Sam Darnold doesn't turn into the old Sam Darnold today at 6:30. And that is the biggest question. It's not like Darnold lit up San Francisco's defense for 275 and 3 touchdowns and no interceptions. He threw 145 yards. JSN had 3 catches for 19 yards and a touchdown. Nobody else caught a football outside of those, playmakers. And it was the rushing attack of Kenneth Walker that had 3 scores on the ground. That's not going to answer the bell today when even at his worst, Stafford last week threw for 258 and still put up 19 points.
So the Darnold piece of it is so important, and I will admit, Joe, there was an element of the Darnold oblique that I wasn't even factoring. Let's come to an agreement on this. It's not a positive that, you know what I mean? Like, he's not 50%, but Joe, he's not 100%. Like, he's on the record, not 100%. And I think we have seen from the Seahawks that they believe their pathway forward is defense and running. It's not that they're never going to throw the football. They're not a triple option team, right? This is the NFL. But please, Sam, do not throw the game away. And that was their plan in that Thursday night game. And he threw the game away. He still threw 2 interceptions. And you'll say, well, then how did they win? How? Rashid Shaheed had a punt return touchdown. They then were able to get the football back. Rashid Shaheed had a 31-yard end around. And Darnold hit a wide open A.J. Barner. And they were able to tie that game due to the wonky 2-point conversion, which was just ridiculous in hindsight, but okay, fine. Now, I will give him credit. He rolled 7s on that overtime drive. Absolutely just was surgical and did everything you needed. But Sam Darnold then has put up in this matchup against the Rams 1 impressive drive, and the rest has been very concerning. And I just think the gap between quarterback trust, Joe, is more than enough to get me to a Rams team who has not played their best football so far in this postseason. And I think it is more valuable to know that at one point the Rams were up 30-14, or I would say it's maybe as valuable that they blew, like they were up 30-14, they blew the game. Both of those are important facts. We've seen them match up well. We've seen them give Sam Darnold problems. And I'll tell you this right off the bat. I think Puka Nacua, 12 for 225 and 2 scores in that last meeting, I think he's going to be phenomenal again. Because I think for the Rams, Joe, this is a pull no punches game. They're going to think, no matter who makes it out of the AFC, we win this, it's ours. That's the perception, I think, right now for a lot of people. We'll see if it holds true. They might throw the ball to Puka Nacua 25 times. Jamar Chase style, right? Like, I think that is truly on the board here in this matchup.
No, you're right. So think about what you just said breakdown-wise. You said that Seattle wants to run the football, and you're right, they do. But are they going to do that now with George Helani backing up Kenneth Walker? Are they going to give Kenneth Walker 30 carries without Zach Charbonnet in that offense, who's the battering ram and is the better you can make the assessment just statistically of a goal line back? That is going to be the question. So without a Charbonnet in that matchup, and to your point, if I'm McVay and I'm Matt Stafford, and I went in last week to Chicago and I gave basically a lackluster effort offensively, I played right into the defensive strengths of the Bears in that ball game. I don't want to do that again with a Super Bowl staring me in the face. I want to be more aggressive, right? I know that Sam Darnold, outside of JSN, hasn't utilized any other weapon in the passing attack. Yeah, EJ Barner had no catches last week. He didn't have to utilize him. So my point is, it goes, who do you think is going to be more aggressive? LA's going to be more aggressive. They have the better passing attack, the Super Bowl quarterback, and they're on the road. You have to be able, you don't want to run the football, which basically goes into the game plan of what Seattle wants to do in this matchup, Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting though, Joe, right? Because with this total, is I expect the Rams to move the ball.
Okay.
You will need, I think, somewhat of a response from Seattle, though, still to get where you're going, right? You mentioned A.J. Barner. He went out there last week and did nothing. I don't even know if he caught a football against the Niners, right?
He had no targets last week.
They didn't play a real game. Offensively, it just wasn't even a real game, right?
No, but that's my point, though.
So what I'm trying to say is, I think we agree on what you can get from the Rams. It's, can Seattle keep pushing them to go the distance, right?
They might not have any option.
I think it's going to be really, really fun to break down. We are, of course, going to continue to break it down. Let's zone in on these props, okay? 3 apiece. You know what it is. It's your Sunday morning crunch right here on SportsGrid.
Joe, you could say the punt block is a key play in the game. It was.
It was.
But the signature play of last night's game is the John Elway-esque diving sideways into the end zone. There's a picture of it right there. To effectively win the national championship. That dude's a baller.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
I'll tell you what, guys. The insider scam is like the best insider scam in the business of, like, in the history of television. They don't know anything until their phone gets the text message in which the deal is done. Right? We saw this with Quinn Hughes. We were told, he wants to play with his brothers. He wants to play with his brothers. Now they're saying that he wanted to be traded to Detroit. In other words, just say you don't know.
In-game live only on SportsGrid.
Hold on a second, though. You believe that Mike McDaniel is not head coach caliber?
No.
There's a lot of evidence that says Cliff Kingsbury is not
That's
either.
fine that you believe that. But here's the thing. Here's the thing.
There's more. Hold on a second.
Hang on, go ahead.
Mike McDaniel has a better resume than Cliff Kingsbury.
He does on paper, but he's not a locker room guy.
Well, is Cliff?
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Meanwhile, Charlie Baker of the NCAA has planted his flag. He wants to see the end of prediction markets, and of course is a little bit nervous with all of the different stories that we've heard surrounding sports betting allegations of some folks being corrupt out there and maybe some point shaving. It does make some sense here. I just wonder which of the sports betting operators are going to stand with the NCAA.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Pro football today with you on a Sunday morning. Absolutely delightful, folks. Let's get to your Sunday morning crunch. I absolutely love it, man. I do wish we put a little snow on that sun, but don't worry, there's plenty of snow out there. Well, maybe they did and it melted away. God, he's on fire early, folks. Lisi, your crunch today. I mean, listen, I know that you've, crossed the T's and dotted the I's on this one. Why don't you take us through your three favorite player props?
Sure, Kevin. I think I had a great week last week with Caleb going through his rushing total. I had the Curtis Samuel catch. I think I did pretty well. DeAndre Swift, I think, got through his total.
You're sneaking in Saturday plays. You're combining the 2 days. You're like, I had like 2 winners between the 2 days.
Let's see if we can get it going. I mentioned Travion Henderson. I think he could be the more explosive back out of him and Ramondre Stevenson.
Yeah.
Tempered numbers. I do like Travion Henderson today to blow through his total. I told you 60 at plus 360, 70 I think is plus 560. You want to take a shot, the kid hits a home run, 80 yards I think is almost 10-1. So we'll see how that plays out. Great value on Travion Henderson today. AJ Barner, to your point, not targeted, no catches last week. He's going to have to make some plays this week, has a low number of 27.5. I could see him getting to at least 30, potentially 40 yards. So I like that. And then everybody's looking at Puka, to your point. Old man Devontae Adams that some people bet for an anytime touchdown last week. I know he was closed out in the cold tundra of Soldier Field. But I think Devontae Adams at 49.5 is light. I actually took Devontae over his total, and I did take a shot, 2+ touchdowns, Kevin. Great value for Devontae today.
All right. Listen, I'll root you in. I can't do the Devontae. What?
No,
what?
I mean, just very tempered on the crunch. I mean, just tempered. I mean,
well, listen, I don't know. During your Trevion breakdown, it seemed like you were unfamiliar with the straight number. You know what I mean? It seemed like you had never seen that 35.5 before a day in your life. You know what I mean?
Like, I mean, that is just total. That's like being slapped in the face with that number.
Yeah.
That's like terrible. I'm like, I can't even stop laughing. I'm smirking. I can't
Right,
wait
right,
to-
right.
Who
Go
on
ahead.
trade
All right.
last week? Me or you?
I had him last week,
Oh,
so
okay.
you
All
so
right.
you so you picked it
All right.
up. No, that's
So I'll
great.
put the saddle. I'll put the saddle on today.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. So look, I took RJ Harvey over the 22 and a half receiving yards. I think RJ, I took a 20. I'll just do this like Lisi, right? I'll just mention a bet and then tell all the other variants I took. I took him 25-1 to lead this game in receiving. So you know what I mean? So I like this RJ. The lack of disrespect on this guy's number. I mean, at 22 and a half, he went 5 for 46 last week. He's great out of the backfield. I just think this is one of those numbers where I think any game script, RJ Harvey is very involved in the receiving game. In the world where New England does lead, though, for significant stretches, Stidham could check down quite a bit to Harvey. So I think that is something really to keep in mind. This next one, this is one of these that gets the Lisi smirk, and it's earned. It's Puka and Jackson Smith and Jigba for 200-plus receiving yards combined at plus 111. Why does it get the Lisi smirk? First meeting, I bet it. They get to 180. I lose. Second meeting, I don't bet it. They get to 331 yards combined. So that would have been great. So here's the third meeting. I'm up I'm up again. Could be Barner. Could be Devontae Adams. I took the two bell cows, though, for 200-plus. And then this is my favorite of the bunch, actually. I think we talk a lot about, sides or buy lows. Matthew Stafford has had a 2.5 passing touchdown number for 3 months. Now it's 1.5 at minus 121. That's at a Bet Rivers. You can get minus 130s. You can. The reality is, Matt Stafford was on a 12-game stretch of 2 or more touchdown passes, postseason included. And then he doesn't throw a single one against the Bears. And we get this number against a team who's given up twice as many passing touchdowns as rushing touchdowns. I think Stafford is live for 3. I think he's live for 4. I'm almost certain, Joe, Stafford will throw 2 today.
Yeah, I mean, I like Stafford. I like the Rams, and I like the over, Kev. So I like what you did. I actually, on one of my parlays, took the Puka and JSN for 100 each. I did take
Not
that with
bad.
the over.
Oh, all right. So, hey, maybe we'll make it happen together, pal. What we are going to do, of course, though, plenty to break down with these games. Big decision out of Pittsburgh. Mike McCarthy. I feel like Lisi's going to have some thoughts on that. We'll talk about it next.
Sure, you could say the punt block is a key play in the game. It was.
It was.
But the signature play of last night's game is the John Elway-esque diving sideways into the end zone. There's a picture of it right there. To effectively win the national championship. That dude's a baller.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
I'll tell you what, guys. The insider scam is like the best insider scam in the business of, like, in the history of television. They don't know anything until their phone gets the text message in which the deal is done. Right? We saw this with Quinn Hughes. We were told, he wants to play with his brothers. He wants to play with his brothers. Now they're saying that he wanted to be traded to Detroit. In other words, just say you don't know.
In-game live only on SportsGrid.
Hold on a second, though. You believe that Mike McDaniel is not head coach caliber?
No.
There's a lot of evidence that says Cliff Kingsbury is not
That's
either.
fine that you believe that. But here's the thing. Here's the
There's
thing.
more. Hold on a second.
Hang on, go ahead.
Mike McDaniel has a better resume than Cliff Kingsbury.
He does on paper, but he's not a locker room guy.
Well, is Cliff?
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
While Charlie Baker of the NCAA has planted his flag, he wants to see the end of prediction markets, and of course is a little bit nervous with all of the different stories that we've heard surrounding sports betting allegations of some folks being corrupt out there and maybe some point shaving. It does make some sense here. I just wonder which of the sports betting operators are going to stand with the NCAA.
Newswire. Only